Most Honorable Chair Luggers, members of INC, and our host country, Kenya, I would like to thank you for this momentous opportunity to address this esteemed gathering. I am Dr. Mark Geier, physician and medical researcher, and the director of the Coalition for Mercury-free Drugs, COMED. To begin, I would like to quote from Dr. Benjamin Schwartz of the National Immunization Program of the United States Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. He spoke on August 12, 1999, at a closed-door meeting between government officials and representatives of the vaccine industry. Here's what this U.S. health official said in 1999, quote, "The cat is out of the bag, the horse is out of the barn, and Thimerosal is going to be out of vaccines," end quote. The present question is not if Thimerosal will be removed from vaccines, but when it will be removed from vaccines. The question is also how many children must suffer learning disabilities and neurodevelopmental disorders before we end the unnecessary use of Thimerosal, a known neurotoxin in vaccines and other pharmaceuticals. As a vaccine expert who handles both Thimerosal and 2-phenoxyethanol in the lab, I can attest to the fact that 2-phenoxyethanol is better than Thimerosal for not interacting with the different components of a vaccine. It is more stable. As a scientist, let me say this clearly. 2-phenoxyethanol is a much safer, less toxic, and cost-effective replacement for Thimerosal, licensed and listed by the FDA as an acceptable vaccine preservative. In its analysis of cost differential for switching to vaccines with 2-phenoxyethanol, my organization estimates that this improvement in vaccine safety will cost less than a cent a dose, a small price to pay to avoid the known adverse health effects of mercury in developing and vulnerable children. 2-phenoxyethanol has been successfully used in tens of millions of U.S. vaccines for more than 50 years. Opponents of a switchover to a safer vaccine formulation may argue that clinical trials will be necessary if 2-phenoxyethanol is used to replace Thimerosal. In the U.S. in 1999, when Thimerosal began to be drastically and urgently reduced in our childhood immunizations, the FDA did not require such clinical trials for this preservative with an excellent record of safety and effectiveness. The same cannot be said for Thimerosal. As the U.S. Congress officially published in 2003, quote, "Manufacturers of vaccines and Thimerosal have never conducted adequate testing on the safety of Thimerosal. The U.S. FDA has never required manufacturers to conduct adequate safety testing on Thimerosal," end quote. Today, the Coalition for Mercury-free Drugs has submitted a list of 100 peer-reviewed scientific articles published since the year 2000 showing harm from Thimerosal and implicating it in learning disorders and developmental disabilities in our children. In addition to these articles, there's another by my esteemed colleague, Dr. Maria Majeski of the Marie Curie Chair Programs in Warsaw, Poland. She recently published in the peer-reviewed Journal of Neurochemical Research, quote, "On the whole, the current study provides further empirical evidence that exposure to Thimerosal leads to neurotoxic changes in the developing brain, arguing for urgent and permanent removal of this preservative from all vaccines for children and adults, since effective, less toxic, and less costly alternatives are available. The stubborn insistence of some vaccine manufacturers and health agencies on the continued use of this proven neurotoxin in vaccines is testimony of their disregard for both the health of young generations and the environment," end quote. Of the hundreds of studies never acknowledged by public health officials, the latest one to indict Thimerosal as unacceptable for use in vaccines comes from Harvard. Even in the face of this evidence, the World Health Organization has openly acknowledged in its submission to this body that annually over 300 million doses of mandatory vaccines are administered with high levels of mercury from Thimerosal. If we, the INC, fail to address the presence of this toxic preservative in our vaccines and other drugs through our legally binding instrument, we will be crippling this treaty, even as mercury cripples our children. Members of the INC, I entreat you to bring urgently needed and lasting historical reforms to the safety and manufacture of vaccines by banning mercury from human pharmaceuticals. Thank you.